morning. Today is the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. So while the clock is ticking and running, let's get right to the floor show. We have our Tuesday trader, Tom Hayes, and Raymond James, Washington Health Policy research analyst, Chris Meekins, who says 500 million new home tests is a, quote, woefully inadequate number for what the country needs. Chris, I'll start with you. You advise investors on how policy will affect certain stocks and sectors. We just got a change in policy. Give us your macro thought first.
Yeah, I think that we're now on the fourth COVID action plan from the president. Only 2 weeks ago, he announced number 3, and his solution for testing was to just have insurers cover it with a bunch of loopholes for them. And now we see a big change in the administration policy. For more than a year, many experts have been urging administrations, both the end of the Trump administration and the Biden administration, to really surge testing capacity in the United States. We saw the UK, which has a vast amount of tests available for individuals. They don't have the shortages we're seeing here. And yet, only today does the Biden administration say they're willing to make a big number, 500 million tests available. But when you consider we have 330 million Americans and that they're not going to be ready until only some of which will be ready mid-January, Omicron's going to probably be over in major metro areas by the end of January. So this doesn't really solve the current problem. It may address things for future variants, but it doesn't really solve the issue people are seeing right now, which is you can't find a test at any pharmacy within 25 miles of where I live in D.C.
Yeah, I was having trouble in, of course, the New Jersey area right near New York City. So I get it. But Chris, let me just stick with this here. From an investment standpoint, do you go with the PPE, the mask makers, which right now are in the green, or do you go with the test makers? Yes, we were caught woefully flat-footed by this administration on the testing situation, as we see playing out right now across the U.S. But I would argue that this is a fast-morphing variant and a disease here. So wouldn't you rather have an administration that does change as the news changes?
It's great that they're making a change now. And if this is a new policy where they're going to try to move similar to the UK, where every American can have access to a free test when they need it. We spent $1.9 trillion on the American Rescue Plan. You think they can come up with a few billion for this going forward? And hopefully, Liz, you were one of the early leaders. I remember being on with you at the start of this pandemic when you were highlighting the shortage of key masks. It's time for the administration to say quality N95 masks to every household as well with their key tests. With regard to the market impact, I think obviously mask names will be positive as new variants will continue to come. We've said for a long time there will be new variants that will get worse, that will potentially make vaccines a little less effective and other treatments potentially less effective. We knew this was coming. So the testing names, it's positive in the near term. If this is a supplement to existing retail supply, because the government gets a much better rate on these than Amazon or Walmart or Walgreens or CVS.
Okay.
So companies make more on the retail than the government side. So I think there's some upside of these as long as this is supplementing, not supplanting what's currently in the pipeline.
I don't want to ignore, Tom Hayes, something that happened at the very end, and that was when President Biden said, Joe Manchin and I will get something done. Please remember, and I logged everything right before the president began speaking. The NASDAQ had been up 312. We're now up 330. Everything slightly higher or more comfortably higher. And I'm wondering how much that played into it and what is it doing to the psychology of the markets, do you think?
Well, I agree, Liz. The key thing, no shutdowns. No lockdowns means there will be no Grinch this year, and Santa Claus may be coming to town. I think what you said about the possibility of the Build Back Better getting rejuvenated in January is also very promising for the markets. It'll be a toned-down package if it gets through. And I also think the market was looking today at Omicron in South Africa. They peaked at a record high cases on December 12th. However, cases are now down 77.5%. since December 12th. And I think market participants are hopeful that that pattern will follow a huge spike up and then a rollover with mild cases for the large part. And then if you look through this, today we're seeing the 10-year yield is up, the reopening trade is back on, and you're seeing a lot of industrials and travel stocks start to perform, which is very promising as well.
Tom Hayes, Chris Meekins, great to have you both. And I think it's extremely important as we watch these markets to see that after 3 days of selling, we do have pretty strong moves here to the upside.